rock. Jingle bells swing and jingle bells ring. Snowing and blowing up bushels of fun.
Hello and welcome to This Week in Sports for Wednesday, December 7th, 2016. I'm Mike McClung here with Evan Olawani and Jack Kroll. We're going to start a little bit different today. We're going to stick with the football theme, but we're going to start in college this time. Alabama gets the number 1 seed. Clemson's at 2. Ohio State's at 3. Washington at 4. And your Penn State Nittany Lions don't make the top 4. They're at number 5. Go ahead and do your little rant.
Personally, I think that they should be above Ohio State because Penn State beat Ohio State. They also won the same division they were in, which I think is the best division in college football, considering you have Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State in one division. I think that's just ridiculous. And then they also won the Big Ten. I don't see how they're not in, considering
I can see how they're not in.
Oh, boy.
Because remember when Michigan spanked them?
That was early in the year, though. You can't. The committee said if you lose early in the year,
I don't care what
okay.
the committee says. Michigan is
first
of all, by far a better team than Penn State. They smacked them once. They lost to double overtime in a great Ohio State team. And you're going to say that they're not better than Washington?
Well, Penn State also beat that same Ohio State team.
But you said it was early in the year, so it doesn't really matter, does it?
But that was a lot later in the year, though. That was only.
I don't think you could just say that the early in the year losses don't count.
They do count. They do count.
Okay, well, they got beat up early in the year.
You also have to remember.
I think Michigan is just a better team, I think, even than Washington State. I think Michigan should be the 4th seed.
Washington State didn't get in. That's Washington. But anyway, Penn State, I don't care if it's early in the year. They got beat up by Michigan, and I think because of that, that's probably why the committee left them out. But at the same time, they won the best division in college football, so I think you have to give that to them at least. I don't know if they should be above Ohio State. This is kind of tough because obviously Alabama is way ahead of everybody.
Alabama's going to win the tournament.
Alabama's like on a different planet.
That's fair. But then there's 4 teams really that you could say you could make any order for 2 through 4, in my opinion anyway. I mean, a couple teams are 1 loss, but they haven't played the schedule that some of the other teams have played. A couple teams. Penn State's a weird team to figure out because their highs are so high, but they're low, losing to a bad team in Pittsburgh and then a good team in Michigan, but by a ton. That really hurts them, so it's kind of tough to figure out.
Even Clemson lost to Pittsburgh, but they easily got it. So, I mean, I don't know. The committee.
Yeah, that's the one thing I was a little confused about is how Penn State. I mean, I get the second loss is huge, but Clemson lost to Pitt, so that's why I was a little confused about that. And it was also in Clemson.
That's another thing that makes that Penn State loss to Pitt a little bit better because they beat another great team, but at the same time, Pittsburgh was like 4-8, like something crazy where they only beat good teams. I don't know how that happened, but
I don't know.
It's unbelievable to think
I just think it's unfair that a team, a third-ranked Michigan, goes into a second-ranked Ohio State. They come out with a loss in double overtime, and they get knocked back like 4 spots.
Yeah, they went from 3 to 6.
I think I just think that there's just no reason that they should have got bumped back that far versus such a good caliber team. And if it wasn't for a controversial call first down, they could have easily won that game.
Yeah, like I said,
if they won that game, is Ohio State not going to be in the playoffs now? So.
Oh man, I don't even want to think about that. But one thing we know is just it's been a crazy season. I don't know, just anybody can win it, but then Alabama's at the top. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. We're going to take a little bit of a substitution here. We appreciate Jack coming in, talking about his Penn State team. We'll be right back after this. All right, welcome back. Now we got Matt Zahar in the house here to continue for the rest of the show. We're going to move on to professional football now. We're looking at some of the young teams that are looking to make the playoffs. The Cowboys are already in. Raiders are looking to make a run, and the Bucs are, I believe, 7-5 now, competing for that wild card spot. Do we think these young teams are going to be able to compete in the playoffs?
The Cowboys, it's kind of a weird story. You know, rookie quarterback, rookie running back, but yet they've been so productive this year, even against good teams. So I think that they can be successful in the playoffs, even though I don't want them to. I think they have potential to. Derek Carr is having an MVP season. If he keeps that play up, I don't see a reason why they shouldn't go pretty far in the playoffs as well.
Matt?
I see, out of those 3 teams, in the playoffs, I see the deepest run going with the Raiders. The only reason why I don't see the Cowboys is just because, like Evan said, the rookie QB and rookie running back, and that's a lot of weight to put on their shoulders.
And it's got to catch up to them eventually. They're not playing like rookies, and I mean, one of these days, they're versus a really good team. That's got to hit them a little bit.
I think so. I mean, even though they've been playing phenomenal, at the same time, they're still rookies, and rookies, just traditionally speaking, don't do that well in the playoffs. I don't know if you remember the year Ben Roethlisberger was 13-0 as a rookie starting quarterback in his first 13 games. And, as a Steelers fan, I remember, obviously, but they got to the playoffs and they didn't do so well. So it's just, I think, I agree with Matt. The best chance you got to give to the Raiders because Derek Carr's got a little bit of experience, obviously not in the playoffs, but just as a starting quarterback. He's probably started the most games and he's done really well. And the Raiders team, to me, their defense has been playing so much better as of recently that they're not a one-sided team anymore, and that makes them the most dangerous. When I look at the Cowboys and I look at the Bucs defense is pretty good, and but besides Mike Evans on their offense, it makes you wonder. But the Raiders, you look at, they're really a complete team. Cowboys, I don't see that too much. They got a great attack on offense, but I don't know if the rookies can sustain that.
The big thing with the Cowboys for me is that the rookies Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott, in college they only play about 12 games a year. Now they're playing 16-game seasons, and now it's coming up to that 13th week.
Elliott went to the national championship, so.
But
I understand the point that he's making.
Vigorous, I feel like it's much more intense to play in the NFL, and so I think that's going to catch up to him eventually, especially in these next couple games. But again, they clinched the playoff spot, so they can probably limit his touches to try to preserve him.
Which they should, definitely.
One big thing for Elliott in the playoffs is he's played in front of those huge crowds in big moments, so that's going to be nothing new for him. One thing about the Bucs is they're at 7-5 and they've had no running game. Doug Martin's been out all year. Now he's coming back. If they could get their running game in order, I think you might see them make a big push because Falcons are just falling apart.
That's true. They're tied for first in that division right now. One other reason I do like the Cowboys is just because they're going to get that bye. They're the best team in the NFC right now. And I look at the NFC and I don't see too many top-heavy teams. You look at teams in the past that have been good, like the Packers. Seahawks are starting to get back now, but the Panthers aren't as good anymore. Cardinals have really fallen off. You look at the potential teams the Cowboys could play in the first round. Obviously, they're going to get a team that won the divisional round. But at the same time, I don't look at anybody and say, oh, the Cowboys can't beat them because the NFC to me is just not as strong as it's been.
Yeah. I mean, NFC, that's much easier road than going AFC just because you have the Patriots in that other conference. And, I mean, the biggest challenge is going to be the Seahawks. Personally, I don't think they could beat the Seahawks just because of that defense in the postseason.
With Earl Thomas out, I don't think they'll make that much of an impact, but still definitely plays a factor.
I mean, that's a big injury, but, I mean, they'll get over it. They have Pete Carroll, who's one of the best defensive coaches of all time.
So you already took a head start on me. We're going to talk about some of the veteran teams now. You want to start with Seahawks?
Yeah, I mean, every year, end of the postseason, you see Patriots, Seahawks, and two other teams. I guess the Broncos, too. I guess those are 3 out of the 4 teams every single year for the past, 3 or 4 years?
Yeah, they've been very consistent.
And, I mean, Todd Rawls is coming back. He just had a huge game. He had over 100 rushing yards first half. Left the game with concussion protocol, but I mean, once that running game comes back, it's a dangerous offense.
They got a good formula to win cold games in the playoffs, and they host a lot of those because they play defense and they run the ball really well.
The Patriots, of course, they have Tom Brady. Last couple games, he looks not the best because of his knee injury. If he becomes healthy again, of course, they're going to win games. Their defense played really, really well last week against the Rams. Not saying that's impressive, but still, it's a good step for the defense. Tom Brady's going to be Tom Brady. He's going to get into the playoffs. He's probably going to make a decent run in there. So I think we can always count on him. And with your Steelers, I mean, they're completing their whole offense. Everything just is looking well. I mean, the biggest thing for them is their defense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm ready to buy into the defense yet, but their offense definitely looks good recently. They did shut down the Giants' offense, which has been, I guess pretty good. You normally don't trust Eli Manning too much, but he's been having a pretty good season. They shut him down this week, so they're going to go as far as their defense can carry them because their offense is going to be good for, 30 points or so, but when the playoff comes around, that's a whole different story.
Yeah, they added a whole new weapon with Ladarius Green the past couple of weeks. First couple games back, didn't really do much, just getting back into the offense, but last game, what do you have, 110 receiving yards?
I think we're both fantasy owners of him. We dropped him a little bit earlier.
Yeah, dropped him early. That was a little disappointing.
Things like that happen. So we're going to move on to some cold weather football games to some warm hot stove and baseball going on now. Chris Sale just got dealt to the Red Sox. Edwin Encarnacion still available. Carlos Beltran over the Astros, and Matt Holliday just went to the Yankees. Those are just some of the big stories. Who do we want to start with?
My favorite player in MLB is Carlos Beltran. I've always loved him as a Met. Now he went to the Yankees, so I couldn't love him as much. Back to the Astros, so I can love him a little bit more. But he got a pretty big contract for his age. I think that he produced decently last year, but you got to think about, like, do you think the Astros, was it worth it for them?
Some of the moves the Astros are making, I don't really understand too much. They're making a big splash right now, signing a lot of guys, but I don't know if it's necessarily going to pay off for them because they're so championship or bust, it seems like, the next couple of years, and I don't know if they're ready for that yet because, to me, they're still a couple pieces away.
I think personally, I think it was a great move just because they have such a young team. They're adding a veteran with playoff experience just
That's
to
fair.
put Carlos Correa and Jose Altuve in a good position to like calm themselves down if they start making a run.
That's true, but one thing about Beltran, interesting to get your take on it as a Mets fan, but he's been on a lot of contenders and he's never won a World Series in the past. So, I mean, he's a great player. I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, he's just, I wouldn't say unlucky. One player can't, bring a championship to their town, but the bottom line is that, he's probably hungry for one. Astros are hungry for one. It could be a good fit.
That's a good point. Want to talk about Chris Sale a little bit?
Chris Sale going to the Red Sox, I'm happy to go to the Nationals because that would have just been a little bit sad. But now the Red Sox have a very good pitching rotation, especially with David Price, Chris Sale. I mean, those are two phenomenal all-stars that a lot of teams are going to have to face a lot.
One thing about David Price, though, is just I think he's proved to us that you can't trust him when it comes to playoff time. And I don't know, Chris Sale, we haven't seen him in the playoffs. He's been on the White Sox the last couple of years. But the Red Sox have a really good young hitting team. They lost David Ortiz, but it seems like they're not even, retooling. They're just reloading, and they're replacing with a lot of great players. But I don't know, come playoff time, is David Price going to be able to pitch well? Is Chris Sale with no playoff experience going to be able to pitch well? Last time they were in the playoffs, they got swept by the Indians. I don't know, going forward, are any of their players going to be more adaptive for it this time? They haven't added any bats yet, and that's really what struggled in the playoffs. So I think it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Matt, what's your opinion on the Red Sox? I know you were talking to me earlier about it.
I mean, they have arguably the two best left-handed pitchers in AL baseball, but I mean, you really can't base it off of just two players or one player. You got to base it on those younger players stepping up and doing what they got to fill the shoes of David Ortiz, or at least do their best to. They're not going to be able to.
Right.
But do you think the Red Sox loss of David Ortiz is that big of a deal? Because I mean, I think
Yeah, he had one of the best seasons of his career last year.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I think for the fans it is, but for the team itself, I think it's good to move on.
Wow, I think you're wrong.
I think you're completely wrong.
I really don't care what you guys think because
He did so, and that doesn't even account for his leadership that he had in that dugout, the spirit that he
He
brought
was
to that
Big
team.
Poppy.
He is Big Poppy.
I mean, listen, everyone loves him, but I don't think they're going to be that much of a worse team because they lost him. I think that, they can put other positions. Because the thing with him, he was, yes, last year, granted, he had a great year, but
every year of his career.
That's a big part of that team last year,
They
too.
had to play him in every single game, even when he was having, cold streaks. Now with
He
him.
didn't have any cold streaks.
He did have
He hit
cold
over
streaks.
330 home runs.
Listen, now with him not having, having him always set in the lineup, they can mix it around a little bit and maybe get a little diversity in the lineup.
I just disagree.
Those poor Red Sox having to put David Ortiz in the lineup every single day.
You know what?
What a terrible situation to be in.
Listen, if you didn't have that good of a year last year, you'd agree with me.
That's completely different.
That's why we're arguing for David Ortiz.
You guys are wrong.
That's fine. Evan just in denial. We're going to move on to Tiger Woods. I had a nice little pun put on the board here. It says Tiger Woods is back because he hurt his back, and it's not hurt anymore because he did pretty well. Matt, you want to get into that?
I mean, he did pretty well. Not the best he could have because he did lead the field in birdies, and which was pretty impressive because the winner of the tournament, Hideki Matsuyama, crazy name, but he won with a score of -18. Woods ended up with -4, but Woods still led the tournament in birdies, just showing how bad some holes were. But I mean, just seeing that, you can tell that he has the potential to get back to what he was, I think.
So what you're saying, he just has to be more consistent now.
Yeah, I mean, first tournament in 16 months, you're going to have some rough holes like that. But, I mean, the one round he shot a bogey-free 65, and, I mean, third best score in the tournament. So, I mean, if he's got flashes of that, then he's gonna do well next year.
The only problem I have with it is that he is getting old, and there's so many young, strong men in the golf world right now that can easily outplay him. So I think that he can definitely win a couple tournaments.
I mean,
But sooner or later, he's just outmatched by some of these players.
I don't think so because the tournament he was in was with all top 25 players besides himself, and you saw in two out of the 4 rounds he was at the top of the leaderboard.
And another thing about golf is that it's not like football or basketball where it's a contact sport and you need to be, super physically fit. I'm not saying you don't have to be in shape to play golf, but, the advantage of a young guy over an older guy in golf is not as big as it is in some other sports.
No, I really hope that he can, produce well. And he showed a lot of potential. He was striking the ball really well. From what I saw, his putting was actually pretty good. I was surprised about that. So, I'm proud of him for coming back. Okay, and
I'm sure he appreciates
I think
that.
it's great for the game of golf to have him back in the league.
I mean, hey, he went up 248 rankings. He was at 898, and now he's at 640. So, I mean, if that's the right math, then, no, 650. 650, that would make more sense.
If he continues that pace, he'll be number one in no time.
He'll be number 1 in like 2 weeks.
So from a really good thing in golf to potentially a really good thing in hockey, the Las Vegas Golden Knights were introduced this past couple of weeks. How do you feel about that?
It's going to be interesting because they're going to be so bad the first couple of years probably. Yeah. I think how it works, they get a couple players from each team, a couple of draft picks, and they get to build their reputation or build their team and everything like from scratch. So it's going to be hard for them to have success early, but I don't know if it was really necessary.
You don't think so? I mean, more important than that, I think, is Las Vegas going to be able to support a team? And I think they're going to be able to do it. A lot of people make the argument that, people in Vegas don't really want to go to see hockey games. I disagree. If you're out there, hanging out with your friends, why not go to a hockey game? Especially the first couple seasons, they're not going to be very good, like you said. Tickets aren't going to be very high priced. It might be fun to go out and catch a game. I think there's definitely going to be a big enough market for them. And, they're going to be bad so far, but that's with any new team, and you got to see where things go.
It's new. It's exciting. I think overall, it's probably good for the NHL, but we'll see how it turns out.
Anything to add?
I have a source from Dave Capicelli that the season tickets for them are sold out for the next 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so, which is understandable since they've been wanting a franchise for so long, and now they finally got it. So, I'm sure that's not all of the tickets, but I'm sure that's like a base set of a few thousand that are already sold out.
Yeah, and Dave Capicelli's a very reliable
He's
source.
always reliable. He's never wrong.
But listen, new, exciting. Like I said, new and exciting team to the league. It can produce a lot of different things. So I think, it's good for the league. And maybe, I know the NFL, they're not really talking about new teams, but it can open up, ideas to other leagues about possibly new teams. We'll see, how
a lot of teams leagues have been talking about expanding for a long time, and they're the first one to follow through with it. So I think definitely props to them
so I
for
guess
that.
it would see, other leagues maybe see how it turns out, how the team, looks and everything like that, and what the success rate is.
Now, how are they doing that? Are they taking are all the teams keeping a few players and then the rest are going in a draft, or how are they?
I believe it. I'm not exactly sure, but they're pulling players. Teams are giving players away basically who I think are out, don't have a contract anymore, and everything like that, and they get a decent amount of draft picks to help them along. They might get the first round draft pick, so they get the best
first
player
overall. Yeah.
So it's weird. I remember my dad was telling me about this when I believe the Oilers came into the league for football. So it's going to be weird. I'm excited to see.
I think you mean the Texans.
Possibly.
From the Oilers, but regardless, do we think it's going to be probably a little bit until they can compete?
It has to be.
It's going to be like the Jets, the Winnipeg Jets.
Okay.
They've been struggling ever since they got into the league. Any franchise that does it, the Bobcats.
Yeah. Well, they turned it around now.
Yeah,
they're probably the best team in the East.
They'll probably win the championship this year.
So, all right, we'll end on that. That's going to wrap it up for This Week in Sports. For Matty Ice and Evan Olwani, I'm Mike McClung. Have a great night.
Jingle bells chiming, jingle bell time, dancing and prancing in Jingle Bell Square, in the frosty air.